New on Daybreak, new polling numbers in the U.S. Senate race in Indiana. They're from IndyPolitics.org. The publisher and longtime luminary with our partners at WIBC, Abdul Hakim Shabazz, is here. Good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Always good to be here, my friend.
This is a big deal. We've been waiting for polling numbers. Your group's put them together. The headline, the big top line of all of this is the Senate race. What did you find out, and how narrow is the gap?
Well, if you look at the screen up there, Mike Braun has a slight lead over Joe Donnelly 2 weeks in, about 4 points. 47-43 is the number. Now, with our margin of error being about 3.9% and 7% undecided, if I could use a basketball analogy, it's still jump ball, but as we said before we go on air, the referee kind of tilted maybe just a hair bit that way towards Mike Braun. Obviously, if you're Mike Braun, anything that shows you in the lead 2 weeks in is good, but it's still statistically tied, and it will all probably sort of motivate the Donnelly people to really crank out their voters and crank out their base.
There you see the numbers on the screen, and again, as they stand right now. And does any of this surprise you in that number specifically?
That does not surprise me in the sense that we've seen at the national level a lot of these races starting to tighten as Republicans, Democrats start to sort of solidify where they are with respect to their bases. So from that perspective, it doesn't surprise me. Like I said, early on, we had Joe Donnelly with a little bit of a lead. Now it's sort of flipped Mike Braun, but it's still statistically tied.
You know, we knew the second that the Brett Kavanaugh hearings went off the rails in some ways, that this would become sort of the cause from both sides, Donnelly's decision which way he would go. Now that it's done, now that Brett Kavanaugh is on the Supreme Court, Donnelly made his decision not to back it. Does it look like that actually has had an impact on folks?
A little bit of an impact. Early on in some of the polling data, we saw things really didn't change with the Kavanaugh appointment. But with our poll, we looked at, I want to say, the folks who were upset about Joe Donnelly were just maybe a couple points higher than the folks who were fine. Well, let's say like a 35, 37, I believe, is what the numbers were. So with that gives Mike Braun, like I said, a little bit of an edge, but at the end of the day, it's still statistically tied.
What's interesting to me, and as we see the numbers there on the screen, almost as many people said it made no difference to them. This was not a strictly polarizing issue, it would seem.
Yeah, but no, it's been basically where you sit depends on where you stand up. Supreme Court and judicial nominees are a big deal for you. Then the Kavanaugh appointment was a big deal. Most people kind of live in the real world and got other stuff to do, and judges are just whatever those people are, and they sort of went on about their day.
Of course, the challenge for Donnelly is to drift as far right as he can without losing the left of his party. And part of that has been saying, look, I do support the president in many ways. Does it look like there is a split between people who strongly support the president and who they support in this race? Has Donnelly made any inroads there?
Mike Braun gets about 80-something% of Republican support. Joe Donnelly about 90% of Democratic support. So, like I said, the political parties are pretty much where they are. There's a little bit of some possible crossover for Joe Donnelly, particularly for those moderate suburban Republican women in your Hamilton, Boone, Hendricks County that are kind of okay with where the country's going, but not necessarily with Donald Trump's behavior.
And Donnelly does better with women, and Braun does better with men. You found that?
Yeah, we found about a 29% gender gap between both parties. Like I said, kind of traditional. Braun better with men, Donnelly better with women. But oddly enough, on college educated, they're both split evenly, because sometimes the conventional wisdom is that Republicans do better with non-college educated voters. No, but this time they're both about even, Steve.
All right, so IndyPolitics.org doing a poll that many people have been eager to see. Congratulations on the work. I know you have more over the next couple of days in other races, but this one's clearly a headline. Thanks for parsing it out for us this morning. Give us some analysis.
Oh, no, my pleasure, my friend, anytime.
Let's